Iron City built. It's time for the Steel City Nation podcast. Here's your host, Mark Maraday.
Steel City Nation, I have a very, very special guest for you this week. It is Miss Charlotte Heyward. Yes, the mother of Cameron Heyward and his siblings who are also out there in the sports realm. How are you today, Miss Heyward?
I am well. Thank you very much for having me, Mark.
I'm so thrilled to have you on the show. I have a lot of questions for you, and they're about you and your family and just about what it was like not only being married to an NFL player, but raising one and having kids in college and just being all over the board. And one of the most interesting facts that you shared with me right out of the gates was the fact that you were from Pittsburgh. I did not know that. Where'd you go to high school at?
I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, born at McGee Hospital.
Okay.
And I attended Peabody High School.
Oh, wow. Peabody, one of the city schools.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What was it like growing up a Steeler fan then for you? I mean, Peabody.
Well, I was a tomboy.
Okay.
So I was a Steeler fan. I was a Pirates fan. My best friends, their father was Willie Stargell, so I attended Pirates games with them. Going to Steeler games. My first one was I was like 10 years old with my dad. And sports were just huge in my life. I played basketball, soccer, everything. But going to my first Steeler game was kind of crazy. I was scared being in Three Rivers, watching all these people drinking and going crazy. And
I'll bet.
My memory of that time was after the game we won. I don't know who we played, but holding my dad's hand and just trying to navigate through the crowd as the crowd was chanting, "Here we go, Steelers, here we go." And it was just an incredible, incredible feeling.
So you must have saw guys like, not to date you at all here, but guys like Bradshaw and Franco and Swanee and Stallworth. And,
oh, you're naming my favorite players. Yeah.
Okay. So who was your ultimate favorite player?
Well, let's see. I love some on offense and love some on defense. So on offense, it was Franco, it was Rocky Bleier. I had several. Stallworth, Lynn Swan. That was my offensive team. But then on defense, I love Donnie Shell, Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, L.C. Greenwood, Mean Joe, Green, Dwight White. I don't know.
You were all over the board with them.
Yeah.
I love Donnie Shell. He was one of my favorites as a kid growing up. I'm so happy he finally got into the Hall of Fame. I can remember growing up, one time my father and mother took me up to St. Vincent for camp, and I really didn't know what to expect. And I was just kind of hanging out with my parents, and there was nobody really around, but one guy comes walking down, and it was Donnie Shell. And I was like beside myself. I'm like, oh my God. And I think it was after he laid that, it was the season after he had laid that hit on Earl Campbell, where he just got up into Earl and sent him to the sidelines. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him and I'm thinking to myself, and I can remember this, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this dude is so tiny. Earl Campbell's about twice his size, but he had to be a fan favorite because he just brought it every time, kind of like, all the Steelers did, and like we're doing it today. So that's interesting. You had so many favorites. Did you ever get to meet Mr. Rooney, the patriarch of the team?
No, I never had that opportunity to meet Mr. Rooney. No.
The chief, man, he was something.
The chief.
He was special. He was a special guy. I kind of feel like this organization is where it is today, just because he took it upon himself to change all those years. I mean, It's just amazing. Don't you think it's amazing? Like, you saw Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin coach. Mm-hmm. And Cleveland has seen how many coaches in the last 10 years? In
the last 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So how did you and Craig meet? I'd love to hear that story. Did you know one another just from class, or, how'd you guys meet? I know you're a Pitt student, and he obviously played at Pitt.
Well, actually, I met him my freshman year, and I was a student at Carlow College
Oh,
down the street. And at the time, my freshman year, and one of my best friends was dating his brother. And we were walking down Forbes, and she said, "Oh, there's such a Nate's younger brother." And he was walking across the street, and I was like, "Younger brother? He's like huge, like, oh my gosh." And he said something really like crass to me or something, and I came back with a comment, and he kind of liked that I was feisty. But we became really good friends my freshman year, and then I transferred to Pitt, and so we were friends for about a year, and then we started dating the following year, my sophomore year.
did you attend a lot of Pitt games when you were at Carlow? I'm sure you went to a lot once
Oh
you got.
yes. I went to, when I was a freshman at Carlow, I went to Pitt games with my dad. So I was going to Pitt games from a young age.
Did you like Old Pitt Stadium? I loved it.
Loved it. I
I mean,
mean, there's nothing like having a stadium on campus.
yeah,
I think that's something that the student body's missing, the football team's missing. When you have a stadium, it just brings everybody in. You feel like one,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
That's hard, sharing a stadium that big and trying to get it filled with, the energy
Yeah.
that comes when you're on campus.
I feel like Coach Narduzzi does a really good job of recruiting. I know he comes down into the Frederick, Maryland area where I live, and he's grabbed the Addison kid who is local here in Frederick, and then he's grabbed two kids that I actually taught from my high school. One I'm still pretty close with. We text back and forth. He's done a good job of coaching down here, but boy, I could only imagine if they had their own stadium on campus still, what that would do for them, for the recruiting. I know Heather Lyke has said she would like to see that happen again, but man, what are you going to do? What are you going to bulldoze? I mean,
I know it's so tight in there. I went to elementary school up the street at Falk School, which is part of University of Pittsburgh. So I grew up, seeing that stadium every day. I think the community, if they could do it, if they could find a place,
yeah.
to put it, it just.
Were you devastated when you heard the O went under?
Yes.
I mean,
so many memories of the O.
Such a staple in the city of Pittsburgh. That was one of my favorite places to go. Even if we were just out, not even at a game, got to stop through the O, get some nasty fries, but
yes, some cheese fries. Yes.
Yeah. When you're a kid, that's just part of it. So what was it like being the wife of an NFL star? I want to say Craig was a star in the league. He had a great career. I mean, what were some of the greatest moments you had? What were some of the surreal times you faced?
Well, let's see. Well, we got married really young. I was 20 and Craig was 21.
Wow.
And I remember the draft being out in Arizona. We were with his agent, and just that, okay, we were planning on getting married that summer, and I'm like, well, this is going to determine where we're going to live. And when it was New Orleans, I was like, oh gosh, we're going down south. I was like, oh wow. But just his career spanned, over 5 different teams, and we had good memories at each team. Atlanta was where I feel like he got used the best. Seeing him being used, as a running back, but also catching the ball. And then that year, what year did he go to the Pro Bowl? 1997, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember. But when he went to the Pro Bowl, they had 4 receivers, and he had over 1,000 yards. They had 4 receivers go over 1,000 yards, I believe. I mean, it was just that June Jones offense. It was just unreal. We had a lot of fun that year. That was a lot of fun.
That was like a run and shoot offense. I remember that. They kind of were between them and Houston. They were groundbreaking on that type of offense, which is very standard today in the NFL.
Yes.
Yes. I can only imagine how good he would have been today playing. So what was your favorite city to live in?
I would probably say Atlanta. It was the one city we lived in Pittsburgh for the first 8 years and did half the year wherever he played and half the year in Pittsburgh. But Atlanta is where we really found a place that we love to live and wanted to raise our family. So Atlanta has been my favorite place to live.
Some great places in Atlanta too. My best friend had lived in Duluth, and I used to go
Oh, that's where I live.
down. Oh,
Okay.
it's such a nice area, such a really nice area, and we used to go into Buckhead and do all that kind of stuff when we were younger. But I agree with you. I actually, when I was breaking into the teaching ranks, I actually interviewed in Atlanta for Atlanta City Schools, but they just didn't pay. Like,
Okay.
to make that kind of move, you got to be making enough to be able to survive. And
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
live in at least a decent location.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
teachers we're the bottom of the totem pole in so many ways.
Yes.
Well,
You shouldn't be, but yes.
So you have any good stories about your journeys throughout the league? Any good stories about Craig you could share with us while you guys were making it through those 5 different locations you went through? Anything that sticks out? Any special memories?
Trying to think. There were so many different memories. I remember, when he was with the Saints, just the city just loves their team there. So we were, always out at different events. And, he had a TV show where he'd make cheesecake, and then, the Manning family, getting to know them when we were in New Orleans. And then his final year with the Colts, Peyton was his quarterback. So just full circle, I remember Peyton as a young man, and then as a teenager, and then seeing him be Craig's quarterback was kind of surreal. But I can't say, I remember going to a playoff game in Chicago, and it was snowy, it was cold. I had never been to Soldier Field, which is historic, but
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you have to love football to be in that stadium before they've did the renovations. But we were getting snowballs thrown at us. Any fans that were from opposing, they were just the roughest fans ever, between the Eagles fans and the Chicago Bears fans. I don't know which fan base is worse.
I was going to ask you about Philly fans.
Yeah. But, I remember his long touchdown run with the Saints. I think it was 73 yards. And I was up screaming and the other wives were looking at me like, and that's what I do. Like, I'm not one of these, little women that just sit here and, I was like, or he have a great block. I'd get up and be like, good block, baby. Just, I was always just real feisty. I was a real football fan. So just cheering him on through the different years. So I can't say exactly one.
I think the listeners would be curious to know this. What's it like during the season for a guy like Craig, Monday through Saturday? I know they've got practice and stuff. Is he up and gone early, comes home late, or, what was that like? Were you home by yourself virtually all the time, those 6 months during the season?
When you're any professional athlete's wife, you have to make some concessions. There's some really good aspects to it, but a lot of times, when it's in season, then you have to be ready to do a lot on your own. They leave for training camp. So they're gone for the, 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then, let's say Mondays, they go in, for treatment, then they have meetings. Tuesdays are usually their day off, but they're usually in the community doing some things, or they still go work out. They still might go get treatment, but that is the day that you can plan to do something. Wednesdays and Thursdays, depending upon the team, because each team is different, how they're going to handle the rest of the week. But, I see Cameron's like first one in and sometimes last one to leave.
Yeah.
And there, his dad was like that a lot as well. And Craig, the 1 year he was with the Falcons, he had in his contract every week that he was under a certain weight, under 260, that he would get a $10,000 bonus. So our Thursdays were very stressful because he didn't eat and he was in the sauna and doing it, but he made it every week and made an extra 160,000 just by weight. So that was a
Yeah.
nice little bonus there.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
you move a lot. You have friends that you make and they leave, and I still have some good friends to this day that I keep in contact from those early years with the Saints and different teams. Um, but it's hard, you're moving, you're not sure contract time, what's going to happen. Um, that was one of the reasons we moved to Atlanta because Cameron said, I'm tired of going to two schools. So he loved it here in Atlanta. So that was one of the reasons why we stayed here.
So, how different, from your perspective, how different is the money today compared to when Craig was at the top of his game? I mean,
Oh my,
look at what Cam's cashing in on.
oh my, money is totally different. I mean, you can make money now. I mean, it's still a small percentage of guys, but if you're smart with your money, it's going to be generational wealth if you do what's right. Um, Back then, you made money and you hope you made good investments, but nothing like what they're making, these days.
Did they sit? Did, this is an interesting question. I don't know if you did they sit Craig down and say, "Here's the direction you should go with your money." Once he was drafted and got in, like they do today with these guys. I know they have, before the draft, they have things for them, and they, kind of like counseling type of thing because so many guys come from poverty. Did they
They
have
have
any?
the rookie symposium and they might have some different seminars. I still think there needs to be more. There's more to be done in teaching these guys, just not just once with a seminar, but there's cultural things that need to be recognized. And just this is, I'll go into that later, but it's some of the things that I do talk to players about.
Okay.
And I'm going to get into talking to players about because I do it all the time now. We've lived in our house for 20 some years. I've seen players come and go out of our neighborhood, and it's sad because they've made way, way more than we ever did.
Yeah.
But it's just being smart, but they don't do enough. I think there's still more that needs to be done.
How about from the standpoint of, like, you sound like you were a great wife as a player's wife. Do you think that maybe more involvement where the women should unify together as well and have a more active role, or do they have stuff like that? Because you rarely hear of the wives of players being extremely active in the lives of the players on the teams.
Well, each team has usually a wives organization. The Steeler wives are pretty active. They do a lot, but as far as in their marital financial planning, I think that depends on the family. I think there are things that players need to be educated about that aren't covered as much in depth. They just kind of cover the surface to say we told them that. But even choosing a financial advisor, never choose a financial advisor that your agent has recommended, because to me, there's something that they're going to get on the back end.
Yeah.
Keep them totally, totally separate. And doing, a financial investigation of that financial planner before you select them. There's so many guys just trust and they don't think somebody, but we had to sue our first agent. So I've been through that. And so when I was going through helping Cameron select his agent, we had a certain process. I get calls all the time to help people with this. So there just needs to be more information out there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was alluding to. That's excellent answer, actually. So you're the mom of what, 3 boys, 4 boys?
Yeah, well, 4, little Craig, he's not biologically mine, but he's mine.
Okay.
Craig, Cameron, Corey, and Connor. And then I also have a daughter, Megan, that I adopted, and she ran track in college. So there's 5 of them. But yeah.
The holidays must be fun at that house.
Yeah, this year was kind of lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, with COVID going on. But it was a lot of texting, calling, and stuff like that,
Is it,
FaceTiming.
Zooming? Did you do Zoom?
We didn't do Zoom. We did not do Zoom. We did FaceTime though.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Okay.
did FaceTime.
So what was it like being the taxi? I know you told me you refer to yourself as the taxi, Division I athletes running around that house. You must have had to go to camps and all that kind of stuff. What was that like for you? How about the planning and just making sure everything got done?
Busy, busy, busy. They all played football, and they all played travel basketball as well as high school basketball. So
AAU?
yes,
Okay.
and they were all at the elite level. So we traveled non-stop. I mean, come March through July, it was basketball. And Cameron chose to play basketball versus going early for football. And even though they said, well, Cameron, we can't promise you a starting position, he loved basketball. So, a lot of his ex-teammates are playing, former teammates are playing pro basketball right now, same with all of my sons. So
Yeah.
we were on the road a lot. We were on a plane. And then my daughter ran track. So we were at track meets, we were at Junior Olympics, we were at AAU. It was just a lot. Football camps, the gamut, and then recruiting.
Let's go back to Pitt then. You talk about recruiting. Did Pitt come in and talk to any of your boys? I mean, you're a Pittsburgh person. Craig was a Pittsburgh person. He played there.
Yes, Pitt recruited Cam. So Pitt recruited Cam, and they said he could play basketball as well.
Wow.
So we went to Jamie Dixon's practice, and we sat in on that. I forget who has number 34 jersey. It's retired.
Was it Jerome Lane?
No, Billy. Is it Billy? I have to think about it. But whoever's in the rafters at 34, they were like, we'll let you wear 34. I mean, they were recruiting him basketball and football. And Wannstedt was the coach. Yeah. And Wannstedt knew Craig. So David come down for Craig's funeral, and that's when he was recruiting Cameron at the same time. So because he I believe had been at Pitt or with the Bears with Craig, either one of the two, but there was a connection. So so Pitt recruited Cameron, and Pitt recruited my youngest, Connor, as well. Coach Narduzzi did. And it was between Pitt and Michigan State for Connor.
Okay, so what was the deciding factor to go to Michigan State? Because that's Narduzzi's old stomping grounds.
Yes. I believe that at that point, Connor probably wanted to make his own name versus living, because that's some hard shoes to fill there if he had come to Pitt, that comparison.
Absolutely.
So I believe that's what it came down to at that time.
How's he done at Michigan State?
He's done okay. He's had some good years. His sophomore year, he was offensive player of the team. Okay. And then last year, he had decided to put his name in the portal. So we experienced that, which is different. Okay. Going on recruiting trips while you're in the portal. Yeah. I learned a lot during that experience, but he was lucky enough when Coach D'Antonio decided to retire that Coach Tucker, who then came in, wanted Connor to stay, and Connor wanted to stay as well. So he's glad to be a Spartan. He'll be graduating in spring, and so we'll see.
Is he going to try and enter the league like his big brother and his father?
Not this year. He'll stay another year at Michigan State because they didn't have a full year this year, and because it didn't count against their eligibility. So hopefully next year, we'll see what happens, but he'll get a full season in.
Well, that'll be good. It'll give him some great opportunities. You're still practicing real estate, you said?
I do. I've been a realtor since 2002.
Wow. How do you like that?
I love it. I do. I love to help people, make such an investment and teach them about the process. I love being a realtor. It's been flexible for me too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It probably offers you a lot of flexibility from that perspective. I'll talk a little bit about what the Hayward House does, your role there. What what the significance is. I mean, I obviously know, but others may not know. So can you share some of that with us?
Sure, sure. The Hayward House is kind of like my dream. I've always wanted to have a nonprofit and to give back. Our house is kind of the foundation of the Hayward House because we always had people living with us,
Okay.
people going through different times. So my kids grew up with other families living with us. So when we were deciding on the names and I was throwing names at Cameron, I was like, well, what about this? What about this? And I said, what about the Hayward House? He was like, I love that because that reminds me of our house and how we
Yeah.
always gave back. So the Hayward House is Cam's foundation that I'm the executive director of, and we just try to make an impact in the city of Pittsburgh and surrounding areas. And it's also here in Atlanta. We do some things here, but impacting disadvantaged youth. They're our future. And in so many ways, we just try to help the community and help these kids.
Before I got into teaching, I actually worked for, have you ever heard of Adelphi Village up in the
I've
Pittsburgh?
heard of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we work with youth, but in a different manner, just helping them get back on their feet after they've had some issues in some sort of way, whether it would be with family issues or alcohol related or whatever. So it kind of, in some ways, it's very similar, I guess, to what you guys are doing, just getting kids back on their feet. Kids have had some really trying times. We have some things that we do down here. I have a good friend who was on here. I coached him. He runs a thing called the 480 Club, where he goes into the schools and he takes the kids in disadvantaged youth and he works with them. He does after school programs with them academically. Then he puts together youth programs with them sports wise. He coaches a youth football team. He put together a 7-on-7 team that he travels around with to get kids recognized. So I'm very familiar with doing a lot of that stuff. And then, of course, coaching myself, I saw a lot of that. And I truly love and appreciate all that you guys are doing from that perspective. I mean, I think there's not enough people out there who are willing to give up their time and their efforts to make sure that others are taken care of today. So if it was a hat, I'd tip it to you, but I'll just kind of, from that perspective.
Thanks.
When you were younger, did you do volunteering?
Not really. I was playing so many sports.
Mhm.
But I didn't do much volunteering. But with my friends, I guess I've always been this way, just very giving and just helping out as much as I could. Craig, though, when he was at Pitt, did a lot of volunteering.
It's interesting. It comes from home, though.
Mhm.
I've always
My mom as a teacher did that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it comes from, and my wife is a teacher as well. So my kids are growing up in a home where there's two parents that are teachers and do the same things, but it comes from home. And it's the example that you set. Again, I tip my hat to everything you guys are doing because it really, people don't understand. It's not an easy thing to do, to be able to give up your time and your efforts for somebody else who may not even show you any appreciation, but you know that in the long run, it's going to impact them. Wait, speaking of that, what's been the most satisfying thing that's happened to you by giving up your time and through the Heyward House?
I think, well, we've got a lot of really good programs that I think are making a difference. We have a Blessings in a Backpack program where we're feeding kids, on Fridays and giving them backpacks with food
Yeah,
for
yeah.
over the weekend. I think that's made an impact. I think our Craig's Closet, which is at our place of business, we have a room that's set up like a store where young men come in and get fitted for a suit. We teach them how to tie a tie, and they get to leave like kind of their chests are kind of stuck out because
Yeah,
they've
sure.
tried on some suits and some formal clothing, and they feel good about themselves for job interviews or graduation or an internship. That's been very satisfying to see these young people gain some confidence.
What's your goals for the foundation going forward? Like in, let's say, the next 5 years, where would you like to see it go to? Would you like to see it move out to other areas? Do you have aspirations like that?
I would love to we have a couple of goals. I'd love to have a permanent, just standalone building, like an old house that we could turn into the Hayward
Sure.
House, that would like have mentoring, have an after school program, like an IT after school program, teaching them
Right.
different skills. So that would be a dream, is to have a standalone Hayward House that kids could come to. I would like to see our Craig's Closet go mobile, like the Dress for Success that they have for women. They have mobile
Yeah.
vans so that
Yeah.
kids don't have to come to us. We can go to different schools or different social programs and have them try on the clothes and take those with them. That's what I'd like to see in the next 5 years.
What career path, well, let me ask you this. What career path might you have taken if you didn't meet Craig and you didn't have these aspirations going forward with the family that you developed? Where were you headed with your life prior to that? What did you dream of? How about that?
I dreamed of being an attorney in family law.
Why'd you choose family law?
Because I wanted to represent kids.
Oh, interesting. So you're just passionate about young children and young kids, huh?
I am.
How many grandkids you got now?
Well, in total, there are 7. Cam has 3.
Okay.
Craig has 3.
Okay.
And then Megan has 1. So there are 7.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing. And you got all the kids and the grandkids. Someday, before you know it, COVID will be over and you'll be able to get them all back together again.
Oh, I can't wait. That'll be so much fun.
I'm looking forward to it myself. It's just wearing on us.
It is.
At this point, it's really wearing on us. So we
It
just
is.
keep our fingers crossed. All right. So I'm doing this thing at the end of my podcast, and I'm going to reach out to you and I'm going to ask you to tell me the most exciting games you have attended as a wife, as a mom, for your family. Can you give me 3 examples of those? 3 exciting games that are just difference makers that they stuck in your brain.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Well, there are 2 games that, there were so many pro games. I don't know. But okay, collegiately, let me hear the Sugar Bowl when Cameron's last senior game.
Okay.
Down in New Orleans. That was very memorable because it was his last game and he tore the tendons in his elbow and kept playing. And watching him fall to the ground that game was just sticks in my head. And then knowing, I didn't know to the degree he had been injured until probably 2 days later. But that game sticks in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about your other kids? High school game? Something.
Oh gosh.
Something that just stand out for you.
Well, when Corey played basketball, I just remember. Well, Corey was his senior year. He was like all-state first team point guard, and they had a tremendous year. They just overachieved. It was just awesome. Their whole season was awesome. And then he went to Hargrave Military Academy because he had committed to one school and then decommitted. So he went to Hargrave, and that team made it to the National Prep Championship.
Oh, nice.
And that was a great season and fun to watch. And then, to see Montrez now playing, I think Montrez is with the Lakers now.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So Montrez Harrell. So it was just that was a fun season to watch. And then with Connor, Connor's football team, his youth football team went undefeated for like 5 years. And then his 8th grade year, they ended up making it to the championship game in San Antonio. So that was really fun. So he's just had a great football career. So just watching him play football. So it's been fun just throughout the years.
I bet, especially since you were the taxi for them when they were really younger.
Yeah.
It's probably made a difference. Do you hear from them all every week? Do they all call mom all the
Yes.
time, text mom
Yeah.
all the time?
Yeah. We have a family group chat that we're in every other day. Somebody's putting something in there. So technology really helps us all stay in touch. Um,
Any superstitions on game day or anything go on? That special text, somebody wakes up and has to send something out?
I try to send them texts before big games. I try to catch them, I forget sometimes that they don't have their phones. So I try to like do it before. And if I don't, I'll say, well, you're probably going to see this afterwards. So I hope you had a good game. But I do say what I was going to say earlier in the text. But there's no superstitions. I think Corey graduated from Georgia Tech. He's working now. I think he'd be a great coach one day. We talk football and basketball all the time. I know he's very supportive of his brothers, and they're all very supportive of each other. When they were all playing sports, they were all there for each other. So I think that's been good with them. They support Connor now because he's the lone one left.
Game day, you're sitting at home watching the game with your kids. Are you wearing a jersey or are you just dressed like mom?
I have Steeler gear on.
Okay.
I have Steeler gear on since I was a little girl. Like I have every baseball hat, every sweatshirt, every once in a while I'll wear a jersey, Cam's jersey,
Yeah.
but not very often. Every once in a while. I have a couple of jerseys. I think I might get in a fight if somebody said something. So I try not to wear them to games because I'm very protective of my clan.
No, I would.
But,
So.
Yeah. But
Feistiness is good. I could see why Craig likes you. It's good. My wife is feisty like that. I like when she gets like, especially in football. She used to get fired up when I was coaching. People be talking, she would get real fired up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the Steel City Nation podcast. It's been awesome talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Where do you see this squad, your Steelers, where do you see them over the next month?
Hey, I hope we finish this and we are, at the Super Bowl going for 7. Hopefully we're healing up from some of these injuries, bringing people back.
Right.
We have a good team,
Seems like a lot of unity. Seems like a lot of unity in that locker room. Mm-hmm. Just looking at it through coaches' eyes from a distance, just watching their camaraderie. Some teams never do that. It's just difficult for some teams. I don't know what the deal is, but it just seems like they have that thing going on right there. They kind of picked each other up. If somebody wanted to help out with the Hayward House, how could they help out?
They could go to www.thehaywardhouse.org.
Yeah.
And we have, it tells about our programs. They can make a donation. Right now, a lot of our events that we were planning had to be canceled due to COVID.
Sure.
Like we're going to have our first football camp last year. But we hopefully might have one this summer. We had to put our birthday bash that we do every year on hold, but we'll be doing that. But it'll be on our website and then also through our social media. So once we get past this COVID, then, there's lots of things that we have planned, partnerships going on, new partnerships. Cam has asthma, so we really want to do some things with asthma awareness in the future.
Yeah.
We've got a lot planned. I've got a lot planned in my future. So I'm excited and just want to be able to get back outside.
Yeah. I'm excited for you, though. There's good things on the horizon for you guys. You've done a great job, and go Steelers.
Go Steelers. Thank you so much, Mark. Take care, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you.